Welcome to our Devos. We are talking about the reality of resurrection. We get excited about resurrection, and Paul says the resurrection is the reason why we have our faith. But on top of that, we are able to believe in the validity of the resurrection because of the evidence that we have. And one of the evidences that comes top of mind as we think about the resurrection is something I call the body conspiracy. The body conspiracy. Now, if you remember, let's go back to the story. Jesus is crucified, if you remember. He is put in a borrowed tomb from a rich man named Joseph of Arimathea. Remember, Jesus was poor, but he had rich followers. Joseph of Arimathea, I would put him in that rich follower category, along with another one of his rich followers, Nicodemus. They are doing this because they want to pay honor to Jesus. Joseph of Arimathea gives over the tomb. They entomb his body. The Roman guards stand guard against the tomb because, remember, Jesus had predicted that he was going to rise from the grave. One of the things that was a concern of the Jewish folks at the time was that the disciples were going to steal his body in an attempt to kind of bolster the aggressiveness of his followers. So when Jesus, in fact, does rise from the grave, there is an account of what happens. Now, here's what's interesting about what transpires when it comes to this conspiracy. The soldiers who saw Jesus, they said that the idea of the stone rolling away, the angels, there was this unbelievable amount of fear that came upon anyone associated with this event. But let's take a look at what happens after Jesus rises from the grave. Matthew chapter 28, verses 11 through 15, it says, "While they were going, behold, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place." Now, this is a big deal, because if a Roman was derelict on his duties as guarding something based on the rule given by the king, he could be executed, he could certainly be fired, he would be put to public shame. So this is nothing to mess with. But they come to the Jews, it says, when they had assembled the elders to taken counsel, they gave a sufficient sum of money to the soldiers and said, "Tell people his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if this comes to the governor's ears," remember the Romans, "we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So they cover for the soldiers. Look, we don't want you to get in trouble, but more than that, we don't want this story getting out, that he actually rose from the grave. We don't want this. So they pay the soldiers off. And even better, they say, "Look, we will protect you. This is a political thing. We'll make sure that you're not going to get in trouble. We'll make sure that you stay on the good side of Rome." And it says, "This will satisfy and keep you out of trouble." So they took the money and did as they were directed. And this story has been spread among the Jews to this day. Of course, to this day at the time of the writing. So this conspiracy was that his disciples, while the Romans soldiers were asleep, came and they absconded with Jesus' body. The disciples, remember we talked about yesterday, that weren't even interested in Jesus' body. They weren't even interested in being supportive of him after he died, so they were hopeless. But these disciples were emboldened. They somehow toppled these Roman-trained soldiers. They stole his body while they were sleeping, and now this was the conspiracy. So this alone, and this is what I'll say, if you doubt right now that Jesus did in fact rise from the grave, here's what I will tell you. All the Jewish folks had to do, all the Romans at the time had to do, if they wanted to completely destroy the Jesus movement, let's just produce a body. That's all you got to do, dude. Just produce a body. You do that now. We do that stuff now. If there's criminal evidence that comes from a case that was old, what do? They exhume the body, right? If Jesus died, give us a body. Here's another thing. If Jesus died and was entombed and is still there, where's the Christian shrine? Would not Christians from all over the world be going there to pay homage to where the Savior is entombed? We don't have that. There is none of that happening. I mean, they go to holy places. They go, well, this is maybe where Jesus was crucified. This might be where the tomb was. But we know that his body's not there because he's gone. He rose from the grave. Every other religious leader, there is some sort of a monument to their death. You can go and you can pray on the site where Muhammad is laid. You can pray where some of the religious leaders at the time of different religions, of Buddha, you could go there and you could have some peaceful meditations. We don't do that as Christians because Jesus is alive. He rose from the grave. And the stolen body conspiracy was where it all started. That, well, there was a body, but the disciples took it, and that's how they got the movement. Remember, the disciples had no interest in starting a movement. It would be a lame movement because they weren't even supportive of him when he was being crucified. But what caused all this to happen? The resurrection. Folks, the resurrection is real. It's real. And you can trust it.